Hey guys, this is Chris here. Sorry, I'm trying to get over a cold, so if I sound disgusting, I'm sorry. Hopefully I'll be better before next week's show, but I wanted to take a couple minutes up front to thank Mr. Brian Riley, a personal friend and a friend of the show from South Haven, Mississippi. He sent us a request to talk about a topic on the show, something that interested him, and we absolutely love this. Any listeners, if there's something that you want us to talk about, a topic or a top 5 suggestion or just anything at all that you may be interested in hearing us talk about, make sure to send us the request to Left Field Sports Lounge, all one word, Left Field Sports Lounge @gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. We want to keep in contact with our listeners and make you guys part of the show as well. Other ways to find us is, of course, through Facebook, and on Twitter, we are at LF Sports Lounge. I know it's not the name of the show, but Twitter, your name is only a certain number of characters, and it could do nothing about that. So it's at LF Sports Lounge. So if you've liked us or followed us already, thank you very much. We appreciate it, but I know not a lot of you have because our follower numbers on Twitter are not very good. So if you haven't, go ahead and follow us on Twitter, or if you have, tell your friends. Help us spread the word. We want as many people listening to the show as possible. So with that being said, here are some various ways that you can listen to our program. If you have a Windows phone, we should be listed in the Windows Phone 7, 8, and Zune catalogs. If you have a device that uses iTunes, you can get the podcast app and search for Left Field Sports Lounge. And then once you pull the podcast up, you can just click the subscribe button, and then you will automatically get every new episode that we publish. And any other devices that you may have, including Androids, there are a few different apps that we're on. You could get Stitcher. You could get the TuneIn radio app or Blueberry. That's Blubrry. We are on all three of those. If you don't want any apps or anything, you could just go to YouTube. Just search for Left Field Sports Lounge. We have our own channel, and the last 2 episodes are up there now, and I don't know if we're going to go back and do previous ones or not. We'll see. If we get some requests for it, we may do it. But every episode going forward will be produced into a video and uploaded to YouTube. So check it out there. Also, our audio is streaming on SoundCloud. So we are out there, just trying to make it easy for anyone that wants to hear us can find us easy enough. So thanks for bearing with me here. But hey, thanks for listening and enjoy this week's show.
And we're talking about, dude, I wish I could be like halfway in between both of them, because I want to party in both places if we win. Like, seriously, man.
No doubt.
So this get me good time. I don't know why I'm rushing all of a sudden, like, because he's not rushing at all.
I think you had every pun intended when you said that.
There wouldn't have been that shit-eating grin on your face if you hadn't. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Left Field Sports Lounge. I'm Chris. That was Eric Tolbert. Hit the bottle a little early this evening. But I'm Chris Lewis, and I'm also joined by Perry Lewis. So we're going to see how this episode's going to go. But we got some fun stuff to talk about this week, and first thing to bring up is we had a request from a friend of the show, a listener, that wanted to know our opinion about a game that was played this weekend. His name's Brian Riley from the South Haven, Memphis, Tennessee region. And you guys met him. He was at my wedding. He was the guy with the red hair that did Bohemian Rhapsody with us.
I love him.
Yeah, so he listens to the show, and he's an Ole Miss fan, and he definitely watched the game this past weekend, Memphis versus Ole Miss, and wanted to know what we thought about that game, particularly the refereeing that occurred. And there was a few things that happened during that game that I wanted to ask you guys about. But first off, what were your initial or your overall thoughts about the results of that game? We'll talk about that first. So, Eric, what did you think?
Well, I mean, honestly, it was an interesting looking game for 3 quarters, which is unfortunate. I know they're better than that, so that's kind of the problem. I mean, eventual score 24-3, but Ole Miss obviously had an anti-home field advantage problem. I'm not sure really what happened or what happened with the referees, but they had a bunch of shit going on and not going their way, and I'll say they're not looking like the number 10 team in the country. I'm just sorry to admit that already, but
that was a common thing that I read about Ole Miss, is that some people were saying that they, even though they did hold Memphis to just a little over 100 yards of offense for the entire game, which is an accomplishment against
their defense did.
Right, exactly. Yeah, their defense looks stout, solid as hell. But maybe they should have put a few more points on the board. But that the penalties and stuff like that come into affect the score. Perry, what were your thoughts about it?
Well, this isn't the first time Ole Miss has had a problem putting up points against an inferior opponent. The very first game of the year against Boise State, they struggled for 3 quarters.
Yep.
They did. Their defense has looked rock solid every game of the year. Their defense is there. Their offense isn't. And I'm sorry, but referees isn't the reason why Bo Wallace lost the ball 4 times.
I was trying to be nice.
They had nothing to do with it. Now, the referees can manipulate how many points get put on the board, but, I mean, going about it for 3 quarters and then you run away with it in the 4th, that's going to get you in trouble when you start playing SEC, the big boys in the SEC. And right now, I don't think they're a top 10. I think they have a top 10 defense, but Bo Wallace in that offense is nowhere close. Okay. That's my assessment of Ole Miss after the first 4 games.
And the thing about Bo Wallace, I went to EMCC when he won the national championship there, and we're talking about community college level, but in Mississippi, community college level is basically mini SEC because everyone playing there couldn't make the grades to make a true Division I school. So don't think the talent level there isn't legit, but Bo Wallace has more weapons now than he did in his first year playing for Ole Miss, and he looks worse than he did his first year. He has done nothing but regress, and he can be great. He is probably one of the greatest quarterbacks in the SEC right now when he plays.
That's
right.
Not saying much.
It isn't saying much, but
he's the Eli Manning of college football right now.
That was exactly what I was going to say. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I mean, in all honesty,
yeah.
Dude, I've seen this kid make some throws that very, very few people in college football can make. And I've seen him make some of the most boneheaded decisions that I've ever seen. And it's just which one are you going to get? And by this time, especially playing, it's against Memphis. You should be lighting them up. I mean, there's a reason that you schedule these games like this. It's to pad the stats and get the confidence going and get some type of momentum swing going into the bulk of your schedule.
And where was the game played? In Vaught Hemingway? I'm sorry, Chris.
Yes.
That's all I'd say. Like, I wish I could say it was home field advantage to the, that's why I was like, the referees, which, I mean, because if it had been at Memphis, you could be like, the refs were this or whatever, but they were Conference USA anyway, though. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Chris,
here's the thing. One thing is that the Memphis-Ole Miss game is a rivalry game. It's just an interdivisional rivalry game. So, I mean, they were going at it full force. It was just, men hitting men out there. So, yeah, it was going to be a hard-fought game no matter what. But I wanted to give you guys some of the scenarios that happened with the referees because there are a few rules that I'm a little unclear about. I thought I knew them, but I want to see what you guys thought. Well, the first one is just a comment, really. The fight broke out in the first quarter. Ole Miss kicked it off, and there was a return, and a guy was tackled, and whistle was blown, and Ole Miss guy was still holding the guy who was running the ball, and he essentially body slammed him, which deserved a flag. And he got one. Or no, there wasn't a flag yet. But Memphis retaliated, and fists were starting to be thrown, and it was a ruckus that broke out. Flags going all over the place. They finally broke it up, and here was the result of it. There was an unsportsmanlike conduct on Ole Miss, and then of all the guys that were out there throwing punches and fighting, the kicker was ejected. The kicker was ejected for fighting. But here's the thing. There wasn't a single call against Memphis. Both of the flags went against Ole Miss. Usually when there's a fight, there's at least, call against one, call against the other, penalties offset. Let's get to playing.
It's kind of how baseball functions,
Yeah. But here's another one. Here's one that was kind of left me scratching my head. I watched this replay on ESPN 3. I actually opened up the game and went and watched this. There was a point in time when Ole Miss was driving the ball, and they made an offensive substitution. Common thing that happened. Memphis didn't really move very much. It looked like they might be coming out on the field, but not sure. Ole Miss was getting ready to start running the play. The referee run up, and he put his hands out to the side, basically stopping the play. While the Memphis guys they weren't rushing at all. They just kind of jogged onto the field, swapped out a little bit, waited till they got in position, and then he moved out of the way to make the play go. And there wasn't enough time to hike the ball. Ole Miss had to use a timeout. Now, I know if there's an offensive substitution, the defense is allowed to make a substitution as well. But is the defense allowed to take as much time as they want to come out and get ready?
No. They aren't, quite simply. And I'll take this one real quick. The way I understand how that rule goes is essentially once the referee sets the ball down and the offense is basically started the play clock's going, the defense has as much time as it takes the offense to snap the ball. Now, granted, if they go into a huddle, cool. Defense has 15 seconds, 20 seconds. But in the no-huddle world that we live in, the defense can run off the field and run a guy in really fast, but it's all based on what the offense does. Once the ref puts that ball down and it's put in play, the defense better rush. It has nothing to do with them. Perry, how do you see that?
I think you're correct. It depends on if the refs, set the ball down, play clock's going.
Play clock.
Yeah, play clock. That's the word of tonight. The play clock is rolling. Ole Miss subs the player at that point. Then yes, you have to give the defense time to adjust. You can't just automatically snap the ball.
No, that's the thing though. Like offense controls everything. I've seen offenses where like wide receivers run plays in and out. Like instead of the the guys doing the weird like airplane shit on the sideline, it's you rush a wide receiver in to tell the offense to play. They can do whatever the fuck they want to. The defense can swap out 11 if they want to, but when that ball's sitting there, right there, if that center runs up really fast while the defense is trying to swap out and snaps the ball, if there's 12 men on the defense on the field, it's a penalty against the defense.
Yes, that's true if they don't sub a player. But if you substitute a player, you have to give the defense time to react.
The Ole Miss players were already subbed. Memphis was not moving. Okay. That was the thing that got me. They were not moving. They weren't trying to come out onto the field until they just let it go, and then they made it known, hey, we'd like to sub too. Then the referee come out there and stop the offense from hiking.
Yeah, the ref can't do that shit, from my understanding.
Yeah. No, I mean, again, we're talking about a lesser conference's referees here. I mean, we're talking about a little bit better than high school football referees. So, I mean, yeah, maybe they were trying to apply the rule because of Memphis is yelling, but it's just, it didn't really work out.
Well, look, I've said multiple times, I think I said it last week on the show, that the refs playbook, or, whatever rules they have to go by is, I mean, you basically got to pass the bar every year to know every rule. And, I mean, maybe that is a real rule. And, I mean, I didn't look up the rule books, I'll be honest. But
no, it is. That's the rule. You got to give the defense time to adjust.
Okay.
Now, all right, so here's another one. This is the one that really just left me scratching my head. It's like, what the hell? I watched this one as well. Ole Miss was, again, driving the ball, and they had the ball at the 13-yard line. No, they was about at the 10. Yeah, it was about the 10. The quarterback hiked the ball. He backed up to the 13-yard line. Receiver was standing at the 10-yard line. He threw the pass. The ball hit the guy in the chest, bounced on the ground. Terrible miss. But clearly it was a forward pass. There was no whistle blown for the incomplete pass. Memphis picked up the ball and ran it back 60 yards. And when that guy was tackled, then the whistle blew. The refs called it on the field that it was a backwards pass, and Memphis recovered the ball. This caused the coach, as I think he had every right to let the referees know that they did not get that call right. The play went under review. A flag was thrown for unsportsmanlike conduct on the coach. When it come back,
got cold.
Right. So when the call came back, it was reversed. The correct call was made. It was an incomplete pass, but the unsportsmanlike conduct 15-yard penalty was still applied, so it backed Ole Miss up 15 yards, and they lost the down because of the incomplete pass anyway. So those bad calls like that really affected Ole Miss's offense. It affected the way they were driving the ball. It affected the rhythm that they were getting into. They very well could have had 2 more touchdowns on the scoreboard, except for the bad calls. And maybe people would be...
Except for the guy dropped the ball. If he wouldn't have dropped the ball, they would have scored. No problem.
Right, but they wouldn't have backed up 15 yards either for the penalty. That's the problem there.
The problem is, I actually agree with this because, look, him being a head coach, he knows that play is going to be reviewed. Bad calls happen in the NFL all the time, and that's the beauty of instant replay. They're going to look at it, and normally they're going to get it right. It had to be something terrible for him to be yelling and saying for him to get the 15-yard penalty. Now, he did that because of the bad call, yes, but he knows it's going to go under review. It's just like NFL head coaches now. You're throwing a challenge flag on a turnover when you know it's going to be looked at anyway, and you get penalized a timeout. Like, these fuckers should know better. You're a head coach for a reason.
Well, you tell me a coach in the SEC who would not take their headset off and go up to a referee and tell them exactly what he thinks about it. He's not the only one. Any coach would have done that, especially if you have.
It depends on what he did. It depends on what he did and what he said. We don't know what he said.
But see, the thing is, that penalty would not have happened if the refs were actually watching what was happening on the field. And so it was 3 yards down the field, and they called it a backwards pass.
It doesn't matter. It's a bad call. That's what happens. You have to know. You have to keep your calm, knowing that this play is going to be under review.
Right.
Well, Lee, I've got to agree with Perry to a point, because as a head coach, your number one job is to manage everyone, the players, all the other coaches. Leave it to the special teams coach to act a fool. But him in that situation, he may have been pissed off about how the game had gone to that point, and he took it out on that referee. But the point remains, though, that I actually agree with the 15-yard call. The reason I do is not because I agree with everything that happened. It's because when a long touchdown run happens and someone overly celebrates, what happens? The run didn't get called back. What does the 15 yards do? It gets assessed on the kickoff. So in this instance, even though they were wrong, Chris, they were right because the coach essentially created a penalty that had nothing to do with the play. So yes, they reversed the play, but they still got to give him 15 yards because Hugh Freeze acted absurd. He needs to be able to keep his cool. He needs to calm himself. But I also believe, on the other hand, and I'll let it go after this, but in a baseball manager getting pissed off, going up there, throwing dirt in an ump's face and getting ejected to get his team fired up. So at the point in that time that happened, maybe Hugh Freeze needed to show his team, you know what? I got your fucking back. I'm going to piss on the ref. Fuck the 15 yards. Let's win this game. So you can't hate on it either way. I think they did right, but I love what Hugh Freeze did too. Showed fire. Showed support for his team.
Yeah. I can't imagine any other coach in the SEC not really taking up for his team in that situation. And it's just, I think. Now, one point that I did want to make is that anybody who's a fan of a team, whether it's college, pro, whatever, football, baseball, whatever, if there is a bad or a questionable call by the referee, if you're a fan of that team and the call's against your team, 75% of the time you're going to be like, oh, what the hell, that's a terrible call, because you're biased. But I think in this instance, in this game, these are not the only two instances of calls that cost Ole Miss another touchdown. There was another one in the fourth quarter that a touchdown was called back for a holding call. When they showed the replay, the player was clearly, the guy that they threw the flag on was clearly had his hands inside the pads. There was no hold on that play at all. They threw it just because they could throw it, it seemed like. I don't know what else was going on, whether they, the refs warned the benches saying, hey, there's a bunch of holding, we're going to throw the next one we see, or what happened. But I think Ole Miss fans actually have a legitimate complaint about the quality of the referees that they brought.
Well, luckily for them, they don't have to play against Conference USA anymore for the rest of the year.
Yeah. So what's the rule with the refs that they bring in for the game? Is it always the visiting teams' conference?
If it's off conference, yes. That's the way it goes. That kind of goes against the whole home field advantage aspect. Yeah, if you're playing Big 12 against ACC, if it's home ACC, then Big 12 refs come in to get rid of all that bullshit. And I agree with that idea. I really do. It helps keep things from being a high school level of home cooking like Jackson Academy or Jackson Prep like to do, which that's some local shit, but still, trust me.
All right. Well, I mean, Brian mostly, asked him what he thought about the game, and he said pretty much mostly it seemed like the Ole Miss defense, it did what it does. Memphis barely pushed for more than 100 yards the whole game. The refs just seemed really heavy on the Rebels. And, They said the touchdown callback because of a bogus holding call really affected the coach. But it said the bad calls cost Ole Miss a lot of yards and a couple of touchdowns. So I think he definitely has a point with that, and I want to thank him for asking us to giving us our first topic of discussion from a listener. We want more of this to happen.
Thing?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
One last thing, and I'm just looking at the stats of the game. I always pull them up as we're talking that. They had 104 total yards. You know how many penalties they had? 9. You know how many yards they had against themselves?
Like
105.
Yeah.
So as a whole, they had -1 yards of positive offense because their penalties negated 105. So anyway.
Yeah, Memphis had a lot of flags thrown against them too, which can be brought in as a as a counterpoint.
It should be like, okay, we won 24-3. It should have been 31-3. Let's move on to the next game.
Exactly. Let's talk about some real shit.
Yeah, it's a victory. So thank goodness it didn't cost them the game. But I think the three of us, I think the three of us can agree that the calls were definitely questionable, and I think they do have a legitimate complaint on their hands about it. But overall, it was a victory, and so they'll be looking forward to next week, which is the big thing that we want to talk about.
Yeah.
Is, the question that everyone's thinking about, at least the three of us, is this coming weekend in the state of Mississippi the biggest week in college football, in the history of this state. First thing we got is game day is coming to the Grove. They've been trying to get them there for more than a decade for Ole Miss versus Alabama. And then also on the state side, State is hosting number 6 ranked Texas A&M. So big matchups here. So Perry, what do you think about this? Is this the biggest week in Mississippi college football history?
I'd have to go back a little ways, but I'm going to go on a limb and say no. I think all of this is culminating at the right time. This is a very, very big weekend. However, I do remember sometimes back in the late 90s, I believe, where all 3 major Mississippi schools were in like the top 20 at the same time. That was a great time for Mississippi sports. I believe it was the same year that State won the SEC. Everybody seemed to have a good team, and actually Southern Miss kept that going for quite some time while the other 2 schools fell off, and now it's completely flip-flopped. The biggest weekend ever? I don't think so, but it's definitely up there ways.
I couldn't disagree more. I really couldn't disagree more. No, I hadn't looked at the history of it, but what I do know for a fact is Ole Miss hadn't been great since the 60s. Mississippi State has essentially never been great in football. So the fact that we've got a number 10 and a number 3 going against each other with Ole Miss and Alabama, and number 12 and number 6 with Mississippi State and A&M, all happening in this state on the same weekend. Yes, I will tell you right now, I think this is the biggest weekend we have ever had in Mississippi college football.
Until next weekend. Yeah,
I'm sorry, Southern. No, seriously, we're talking about 2 home games, and we're talking about, dude, I wish I could be halfway in between both of them, because I want to party in both places if we win. Seriously, man.
No doubt.
And I think we have a better chance. I say we as in Mississippi State. No one confused me. I'm a Mississippi State homer. I am. But I would fucking love if Ole Miss beat Alabama. I would love it so much. It'd be the greatest thing I'd ever seen, next to State beating them at the end of the year when we're all undefeated.
We talked about this before when it was the College World Series. You can't be a State fan and still root for Ole Miss.
Yes, you can.
No.
Yes, you can.
You're not a true State fan then.
That ain't no
It's just
true
the way
State
it
fan.
works.
I am a true Mississippi, the State fan. Look, anything good that happens to Ole Miss, as long as we're just as good, man, all that does is bring the eyes of the world on us. ESPN suddenly wants to come down to game day in Starkville and Ole Miss every year. We go 12-0. Ole Miss goes 11-1 because they lost against us, and we go to the SEC championship. That sounds like a great deal to me. I love that idea, though, man. I do, because here's the thing. I mean, I do hate Ole Miss. I hate Oxford, and I hate their fans. But you know what I love? The state of Mississippi. As long as we beat Ole Miss, man, I'll cheer for Ole Miss playing against any other team in the fucking country. Every time, I guarantee it.
That's such a terrible way of looking at it. It really is.
Why? Do you want us to be like Alabama and Auburn, where like they'll slash each other's tires?
That's what rivals do. That's the point of
Bullshit.
having a rivalry. What other rival does Mississippi State have?
I mean, it is Ole
Maybe.
Miss.
Yes, it is. That is the rival. You can't root for the rival. Do you root for the Packers? Do you root for the Packers to win every single game except for when they play the Bears twice?
No, but it's a different thing, man. It's like a
not
local
different.
thing. It's
No.
a state. It's a state thing, dude. Like
No,
it's.
as a
I
whole,
love Mississippi, man.
You are misunderstanding rivalries in general. I don't
No,
give a
but
fuck
you gotta
if
hear me
they're
out.
right down the street. If they're right down the street, like Starkville and Tupelo. You know, I'm a Starkville High fan. I'm not going to root for Tupelo at the same time. I mean, it's just it goes on down the board. Every team has a rival. That
You
is
gotta hear
the
me
point
out.
of a rivalry. You don't root for them no matter what.
You got to hear me out, though. This is an existential thought, man. Like the problem with Mississippi schools as a whole is the fact that it's not that we don't have great talent in Mississippi and there's not great talent around us. It's the fact that LSU and Alabama and Tennessee and Arkansas and Georgia, they steal from our pipeline. They steal from us as well as they keep all their in-state people. So, listen to me here. If Ole Miss and Mississippi State were the number 1 and number 2 teams in the SEC West, you know what happened? All those kids would funnel to us. It's all so close together that we would have the best 2 teams. And that's all it takes, man. 4 or 5 years of us being number 1, number 2.
That's the point that I was going to get you at. It takes more than 1 year of doing that. It's going to take.
Well, no.
It's
No,
gonna,
I'm talking about.
We're talking
that's
about
what I say I
LSU,
root
Alabama.
for.
I mean, we're talking about decades of dominance here.
Well, look, LSU, if you really look back on it, it ain't decades of dominance. It's about 15 years of dominance. Alabama is the only school I'll sit there and argue that has 50, 60 years of dominance in the SEC. No other school has
and
that.
half an S.
Look, I'm
I
just
mean,
saying.
it still has a whole lot more rich history than State Ole Miss does. I mean, we have a lot of catching up to do as far as trying to establish.
Well, of course
any
we
type
do,
of
but we could do
consistency.
it better together.
No, there's
By-
no
by
together.
Ole Miss kick-
Shut up. There's
Ole
no
Miss
together.
kicking everybody's ass, us kicking everybody else's ass, and then we play in the Egg Bowl and Mississippi State beats them. That's like the most beautiful thing on earth for us to be undefeated playing in the Egg Bowl. Why do you think the Iron Bowl matters so much for Alabama and Auburn? Because they're undefeated sometimes when they play.
I mean,
It's the Iron Bowl.
last year.
And then all of a
Yeah,
sudden,
I mean,
whoever won, but whoever won, what'd they
It
do?
was-
They went to the
it's-
national championship.
No, well, did Auburn? No.
Yeah, Auburn went to the national championship last
Well,
year.
they went there,
They
but
won
they
the
didn't
game.
win it.
They won the Auburn Bowl. I mean, shit, the Iron Bowl. Auburn Bowl.
Auburn Bowl.
Look, it's just Alabama fans do not root for Auburn fans no matter what. And that's the way State Ole Miss needs to be, and the way that I've always viewed it as well as any Ole Miss fans I've ever met. They hate Mississippi State. Mississippi State hates Ole Miss. Always roots for them to lose, no matter what. I don't give a fuck where it's at, how much implications riding on that game. It doesn't matter. You
I
never
disagree.
root for a rival. You just don't do it.
I do.
You're not a true Bulldog.
Ouch.
And that's all there is to it.
All right, so who's going to win that game? Who's going to win Ole Miss, Alabama?
Alabama.
That's a tough one. I'm going to pick Ole Miss in this one. Their defense is definitely ruling the day there. Alabama's offense is definitely questionable, so I think they're going to have a hard time moving the ball. If Bo Wallace shows up and he has his head on straight, I think he will be able to put enough points on the board to outlast Alabama. So I'm going to pick Ole Miss in this one. And Perry, I know you're saying don't root for a rival. That's not true for every Ole Miss fan. I know a few Ole Miss fans that will root for State in the right situation. You're talking about an extreme there.
That's the way rivalries are. It's extreme. There's no point in rivalry if you're going to root for them.
See, this is the way I root. I root Mississippi State because I am a 2-time graduate of the university. That was a big part of my life for several years. I root State, number 1. Number 2, I root SEC. Now, in this situation, we have 4 SEC teams going against each other. So what's next down on the list? It'd have to be the state of Mississippi. And this game here represents a possible changing of the guard as far as national attention, as far as respect goes for the state. If Ole Miss is able to pull out this victory against Alabama, it very well could be the start of a new regime in the SEC. So that's my reasoning behind it.
Hard to argue with that logic.
Well, not really.
Hey, well, you love arguing with it. I'm actually going to say Alabama beats them. And I want Ole Miss to win, but Alabama's offense is actually pretty damn salty. And their defense is picking it up. What scares me is Ole Miss's offense. I mean, if we're putting it down on a scale, Ole Miss's offense has just been too inconsistent to me. So I got to go Alabama.
I think Alabama's a little too overrated, much like Texas A&M. They're ranked number 3. They're ranked
Ole Miss.
Alabama's ranked number 3 because they're Alabama. That's really the only reason why.
That's why Florida State's number 1, Oregon's number 2. They haven't proved it on the field yet, and they're going based off of last year. That's what they do every single year when they start the polls. So
right,
they're not known for because they're Alabama. They're known for that's where they finished up with last year.
Yeah, really, the only team in here out of this 4 that have really proved anything is Mississippi State. Possibly the argument be for Texas A&M for their game against was it Wisconsin?
No, South Carolina was their ass.
Oh, South Carolina, that's right.
A&M
but
last
Mississippi
weekend,
State for sure.
Last weekend, A&M got basically the world got to see their weakness, and that's the running game. And the fact that A&M's defense is weak as fuck. It has been ever since Johnny Manziel was a freshman. I don't know why anybody ever says A&M's defense is anything worth a shit. And then the SEC, to me, if you can't play great defense week in, week out, you are going to lose. A&M has gotten by because Kenny Hill's a fucking beast. Sumlin is a masterminded offense, and they're gonna put up 4 or 5 touchdowns. But Arkansas had them motherfuckers beat. They had them beat, and you know what they did? They ran 22 and 24 and 23 and 25. I mean, those plays are fucking off guard, off tackle, off guard, off tackle, both sides, straight up the middle. Fuck you. This is what we're doing. The reason Arkansas lost is because they quit going with what they were good at. They started trying to pass too much, but Mississippi State has got A&M's number this weekend. They really do because of that. Because even though we're running out of shotgun, we are running a power running formation. And we've got a much better team than Arkansas does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm picking MSU all the way on this as well. Now, Mississippi State secondary has got to show up. They have got to play a good game. And that is the one big question mark on Mississippi State's team as a whole are the safeties. The defensive line, solid. They're not going to be able to run the ball, really. What's scaring me is them getting beat on the long plays. So we very well may have a shootout on our hands.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be scored in the 40, 50-point range by both teams. In all honesty, and I really think these two teams are very evenly matched. You know, you can go on down the board and you can put, check marks here and there, but overall it's going to come out pretty even. Because of that, I think I'm going to give MSU the edge because it is at home, and Davis Wade's going to be rocking.
Yeah, Vegas has been going back and forth on this. I checked the odds twice. I checked them yesterday, and State was favored by 1.5. And then I checked it earlier today, and A&M was favored by 1 point. So it's going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It's
I'm calling us actually 27-20. I don't think it's going to be as high scoring as you think, Perry. Like 27-20 to me seems about the range, and I've got my reasons why. And the number one being that, yes, we got lit up against UAB. And our defense, the corners, the safeties, you want to put it on them. You want to put it on the secondary. But honestly, I think it's on our defensive coordinator. I think he did a poor job of preparing for the deep ball. And he put us in situations, blitzing situations, 8 men in the box situations where we were leaving our safeties and corners out to dry. I don't think it was necessarily we don't have the talent to cover and the talent to respond to A&M. I think if our defensive coordinator gets his shit together, he'll stop allowing the deep ball. I mean, it's just like when we were playing Madden back in the day. You do zero blitz every time. It doesn't matter how fucking good Earl Thomas and Patrick Peterson or whoever is. You've got to set your defense up in a situation where it can succeed. And an A&M is going to throw the deep ball. I don't think they were expecting it with UAB, and that's why we got burned.
It's more than one game. They've given up, passing yards to every single team that they're playing. I'm not talking about just 200-300 yards. I'm talking, considerable amount of yards. They're very vulnerable throwing the ball. They have been every single game. LSU, the freshman quarterback come in and straight light them up, where, if there was another minute in that game, State probably would have lost.
Yeah, but if you know football, you know that you build up a game plan. And I think our defensive coordinator's problem is being reactive in the middle of a game. And if he can't make those halftime adjustments, then we will lose against A&M. Because Sumlin is a smart enough offensive coach that going through the first half, I think we'll be up 14-7, 14-3, something like that. Just because. But at halftime, I think Sumlin will make adjustments and they'll come out firing. And if we don't respond, then it'll be an LSU situation where it gets so close at the end, we could potentially lose. I still think we'll win 27-20, though, because I think we will control the game. It's home. We run the football. That's what we prefer to do, and we can do it against A&M. I think time of possession will be our friend. Keeping our defense off the field will be our friend, and we will control the game. It will be lower scoring than you think just because of that.
48-42. I called one game last week, and I said it with Green Bay, Chicago, and I was pretty damn close with it. So this week, 48-42. Just putting that out there.
I'm saying 27-20.
I'm going 45-35. I said that was my pick all along, but I don't think State's going to be able to kick two field goals, maybe one if we got one.
Missed extra point. Blocked extra point.
Oh, missed extra point.
It's especially in college football, it's very much a possibility. And with Mississippi State, it's very much a possibility.
Very true. All right, so that ends up our college football discussion. Y'all know we get into the NFL, so you just got to wait a couple minutes. Right now, we're going to talk a little bit about Major League Baseball. And October is here, so that means it's playoff time. The playoffs are starting. Yeah. This is the time in baseball I will actually watch. It's tough for me to go through the regular season grind, as I think it is for a lot of people. Very
sucks.
Very, very long season, but the postseason is pretty exciting stuff. That's baseball at its finest. So with that being said, who do you guys have for your picks to go to the World Series, first of all, and then we'll talk about winners. So, Perry, who do you have for your picks?
My picks in the NL, I'm especially getting to the postseason. It's not just about one great pitcher, but you need to have like two great starters to succeed, in my opinion. And out of all the teams in the National League, there's only one that stands out. That's the Dodgers. They have the offense to back it up. And then, when you have Kershaw pitching twice every series, and getting to the NLDS or NLCS and possibly 3 times, yeah, I'm taking the Dodgers. The East is a little bit more complicated. I love Kansas City. I really do. They have their play-in game, the wild card game going on as we're doing the show. The problem with Kansas City is they're last in homers and last in walks. And like the first team ever to make the postseason being last in homers and last in walks. It's a very interesting stat, but they never strike out. They put the ball in play, makes the defense beat you. They play small ball like no other team in baseball. I love watching them play. However, I don't think they're quite deep enough to make a run at it, so I'm going with Baltimore. I think they have one of the best offenses there. They have just enough pitching, but what's going to set them over the top is Buck Showalter. And he's a very underrated coach, and I believe the best coach in the American League. So I got Dodgers, Baltimore, the World Series.
All right. Eric, what are your picks?
I'm actually going very similar. St. Louis is always a beast in the playoffs because their pitching staff is so deep. So it's really hard to go against them. I give them props, and they tend to have fucking, the heroics always happening for them. Some random fucker named David Freese going to hit a walk-off or some shit. But the Dodgers, man, who?
There's only like Matt Adams coming off the bench and being a beast. Yeah,
exactly right. Exactly right. But not me. I'm actually all in with the Dodgers on this side of it because they really do have everything. God, like their lineup on offense is one of the best in baseball as far as just being good from top to bottom. Any of them are playmakers pretty much across the board. And that's how you score runs, and that's how you win. And their pitching staff, as long as you got Kershaw off the top of it, it's great, but Greinke's solid as fuck. Mm-hmm. So, it's not like he's an okay number 2. He's a solid starter on most other staffs. Kershaw's just such a fucking beast that it doesn't really matter. So that 1-2 punch, I think, will carry them through to the World Series. On the other side, I don't like any of the teams in the American League. I really don't. I'm looking at them for the first time. The Angels have the star power. I don't like their pitching staff at all. Detroit, it's kind of the same problem. You've got a bunch of great names, but what have they done for me lately? Baltimore's probably the most solid shot at it, but man, fuck it, dude. Oakland's going to win tonight, and I'm going with Oakland because I love them. And they've been rocking all year. They've had a bad month and a half, and they dropped down and hit the wild card. But honestly, this team from top to bottom is all above average to good, which means that in baseball, it's an average kind of sport any fucking way, so why not? Dodgers and the A's in the World Series this year.
Okay. My pick for the National League was exactly what you guys had, was L.A. Mostly because the pitching and defense. And in baseball, if you have great pitching, you're probably going to win the majority of your games. It's just that simple. Any of these guys in the major leagues can hit a ball, so you just have to get lucky a few times to score more runs than the other guys. But with them, that's not entirely the case. They have great bats. They can put up runs. They're dangerous. They're opportunistic. I really don't see anybody stepping in their way. The American League, what I learned about them is that, as anybody who listens to the show knows, I didn't watch baseball this year. But what I have mentioned, or what I've seen from the American League, is that most of the teams that are at the top of the line, they are offense heavy. They got big bats. They have big names. So I'm going to pick Anaheim in the American League to get there just off of their offensive power. So then in the World Series, you'll have pitching versus big bats. And that's always very interesting to see.
The Los Angeles World Series.
Yeah.
So the Subway Series, it would be what
the Sunshine Series, Hollywood Series. Hollywood
Series. I like it. All right.
I mean, it's cool. I love the Angels.
Mike Trout was one of my favorite players in baseball. The guy does it all. I love him, but I mean, I can't name a starter currently on their team right now outside of Jared Weaver.
Dude,
who's banged up right now.
Dude, come on, Albert Pujols, man. I like me some Howie Kendrick.
No. I'm not talking about offense. I meant pitching, starting pitching.
Oh yeah, they don't have any pitchers. It's god awful.
Yeah, but I mean, anyway, you can cut this part out of the show. But at the end of 6, it's 7-3 Oakland right now.
Yeah,
Brandon Moss with 2 homers, 5 RBIs. It's like, where the fuck were you last week, dude?
Dude, Brandon Moss is that guy that in fantasy baseball, if you could just keep him on your roster playing every week, he'll make you happy. But
he sucked again when it was me and you. He had 2 hits, but both of them were homers. That kind of helped. But it gets tied. Like, he sat more than he actually played. I ended up dropping him. I mean, and it's a good thing I did to make it as close as what it was, because I mean, he just wasn't doing nothing.
Well, y'all, Todd was talking about already dropping that shit off by a week, so because that last week was rugged, and I told him, I was like, dude, you need to shorten.
It needs to be shortened because it's almost like in football, you don't have the championship week being week 17, where you have a lot of
that's what I tried to tell him.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Chris is going to be in the league next year because I'm out, so you can teach him how to play baseball.
How are you going to be out?
Because I fucking hate that shit.
You saying it right now, but once baseball time rolls around, you'll be like, oh yeah, I'm all in. I got the best team. I couldn't just.
I got a really good team, Chris.
I had to keep 10.
I got a really good team, Chris.
Okay, that might help me watch more baseball.
That's what I'm saying. We're just trying to make the show better.
It will. I promise you, it will. There's really nothing like it.
All right, so Barry, who's your pick to win?
That's a tough one.
The Dodgers and Baltimore, I thought he said. Did you say Dodgers and Baltimore? Really?
In the World Series, yeah. Who I'm going to win out of those two? We're going to have Crush Davis back. It's going to be Baltimore. I'm not going with the obvious pick of picking the Dodgers because, I mean, Kershaw's never pitched very far in the postseason before. I mean, he could struggle under the limelight.
Chris, I'm going Dodgers, man. I'm not dodging this quick. I'm going Dodgers, dude. It's ridiculous.
So I had Anaheim versus LA, and I picked Anaheim mostly because it kind of reminds me of the Astros when they made it to the World Series. They had two really good pitchers, and like the Dodgers do, they have two really good pitchers. You have a good shot of winning those games, but if there's any slack whatsoever, somebody has a slip. I mean, Anaheim is a very strong offensive team, so if you slip up, they're going to make you pay. It's going to be competitive all the way around, so I'm going Anaheim here. So we will have to see. Maybe we can talk about it a bit more when the first rounds of are done, and we'll look at the championship games.
How about we just don't talk about baseball till the World Series because the game sucks.
That may be better, but if we get lacking on topics,
it's not better.
If we get lacking on topics, we may revisit it.
You can always bring in baseball because it's goddamn 12 months out of the year. Hey, do we like to? Hey, let's talk about like spring training and the guys with the top 40 times and shit or something.
You don't do 40 times in baseball. Shut up.
You know why they don't? Because they never actually have to fucking be athletic. Be a fat motherfucker like Prince Fielder and be a all-star. That motherfucker would get just drug in football.
When you bat 300 and belt 40 homers, yeah, you're kind of an all-star, regardless of your size.
Yeah, kind of an all-star. He's not an athlete, though.
You look at Mike Trout, you look at your boy Puig, and go up to him and call them say that they're not athletes. Good God!
Boy, he can't speak English at all.
He wouldn't
just point at him and say, "No athlete."
No atletico.
He likes strip clubs, though. He does like those. So I think he understands what un dinero un pussy means. So this get me good time. I don't know why I'm Russian all of a sudden, because he's not Russian at all. Fuck.
Oh, wow.
You're so going to know. You know that, right?
All right.
I'm right there with Putin. Me and Putin will be there putting things, and now I sound like Schwarzenegger. I'm going to stop.
Just say, I must break you. Don't understand that. All right, so on to the NFL, and good grief last week. All right, so one thing, first thing I wanted to bring up is never bet against the Packers when they play the Bears.
God damn you.
Bum, bum, bum.
I'm just getting the first shot out of the way because I know it's coming back.
It's painful, dude. It's painful. They outplayed them, man.
Yeah, they did.
I mean,
and Perry, I was going to give you props for your pick, man. You were pretty damn close.
I mean, I actually gave Chicago a little bit too much credit. I did, giving them to score 24 points. And, they couldn't come through for me. Look, when Aaron Rodgers caught fire, there was no chance. There's zero chance. And the Packers did what the Jets should have done, and that was actually intercept the ball that was thrown right at them, which they did. The Jets had their chance when they played the Bears, and that's the only reason they didn't lose that game is because the Jets couldn't hold on to the pick. But, I mean, that's what Cutler does, man. That's what he's known for.
You know what I think the bigger problem was, honestly? Like, they had too many chances. I mean, as dumb as that sounds, like, they ran the ball too much. Look, I love my Bears, but they are not the Bears of the 80s and the 90s. Like, they are a team that needs to pass the ball more than they run it. And
yeah, that should be a given. I mean, their wide receiver core is just stout as hell.
But their quarterback's not. And they have a top 5 at least running back, if not higher. And Green Bay gets destroyed by the run. Hell, I mean, the Jets did it to Green Bay too. So, I mean, Green Bay is very, very prone to the run. You have a great running back at your disposal. You feed the beast.
look, I can't hate on them. They rush for almost, over 200 yards. So, it's not like they did a bad job of it, but it's just, I don't know, man. Like
it's the turnovers. You do know. You just don't want to say it.
Look, he throws 2 picks. That's fine. But the 2 fumbles, is that really his fault?
One of them was for sure.
I'm saying he gets hit a lot still. Aaron Rodgers, man, he's a perfect little bitch that never gets touched.
He runs. He scrambles. Color doesn't. He's just a little bit more mobile than Tom Brady. That's not saying that much, dude.
Okay, they
He
lost.
holds
Can we
the ball
go on?
too long. He holds it like a loaf of bread before he gets ready to throw it anyway. Holding it right here at
Can
his
we
side.
move along? I don't like this conversation. Can we move along?
No. You
All right,
sit
all
there
right,
and you're
so-
going to like it.
All right, so let's go ahead and get this one out of the way. The Cowboys embarrassed the Saints. That's the best word I can think of. They definitely embarrassed the Saints. DeMarco Murray is looking like an MVP. He is playing like an MVP. I don't think you can really argue against that. The kid is running like a man possessed. The Cowboys are 3-1. Who'd have fucking thought that?
The Saints are 1-3. Who the fuck would have thought that?
Exactly, yeah.
Not me. Not me at all.
Look, DeMarco, he's running like an MVP. I'm not trying to take anything away from him, but Dallas is going back to the way Dallas should be playing. It's okay defense, run, let Romo make it play here and there. This is what made them successful back in the late 90s. They're going back to that, and they're finally feeding the workhorse, which I said when we did our top 5 as well of the running backs. DeMarco Murray is a beast when healthy. If he can stay healthy, he's going to have a monster year. However, we're putting Murray up everybody's putting Murray up on the scale saying MVP candidate, but they hadn't really played a good defense yet.
We thought the Saints were a good defense.
No, you thought the Saints were a good defense.
No, I thought, I'm going to think that no matter what. But
both of you guys thought they were a good defense. I, on the other hand, did not.
It's sad. It's a sad state of affairs in New Orleans. Let's just be honest here. And it just goes to show you that you do kind of miss. Who's that motherfucker that was fast that would make everybody else look good underneath in the receiving attack? Does anybody remember?
You mean Sproles?
Exactly.
Reggie Bush?
Brandon Cooks is no replacement for Darren Sproles.
No, he's not, and I didn't expect him to be. But there's a lot more problems going on than that. It's the fucking offensive line. That's the problem with the offense right now. Drew has no time.
They only gave him up 1 sack, though. He's fine.
Yeah, Drew's fine.
He was,
but yeah, he was hurting an awful lot.
And the same way with with Manning, with Brady, Breeze, they don't typically take sacks. They'll throw that ball away, or they'll throw it at the receiver's feet quicker than they will take a sack. So that number is going to be misleading all the time. But yeah, his offensive line isn't doing him any favors. His running game as a whole isn't doing him any favors. The receivers dropping passes. Colston had 3 drops.
That's
that game. I mean, Jimmy Graham's not being the Jimmy Graham of old.
No.
And, I mean, it's just there's a lot of issues there. And Rob Ryan, I don't think he's going to be there a whole awful lot longer. I really don't. I think there's something going on there. And
he and Sean are having issues.
Yeah, it's not looking good at all. I mean,
New Orleans. Sorry, go ahead.
No, there's defensive holes galore there, and when your offense isn't putting up 40 points a game, defense isn't going to win you anything.
Well, Dallas was up 24-0 at halftime. Rob Ryan's best defense is ears laid back, going for the quarterback kind of style, and you can't do that when you're down 24-0.
No, you can't.
Well, I mean, back when the Saints won the Super Bowl, that's the type of defense they were. Pin your ears back and go.
They were more opportunistic, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But they had fantastic corners. That was the big difference there.
I mean, when you can get after the quarterback like that when you're up big and just go all in, I mean, but also playing that style also lost them the game against San Francisco in the playoffs with Alex Smith who went after. So I mean, I guess there's hit or miss, but that style of defense isn't what the New Orleans Saints is built around right now. It's just not.
No, it's not, and it shouldn't be played that way, I guess. But Rob did a hell of a job last year, and who knows what the hell's going on there. Losing one player is not going to throw everything out of whack like that. It's not on the defense.
Losing the captain. When you lose a captain, shit can happen. What happened with Baltimore's defense when Ray Lewis left? Downhill. What happened to the Texans' defense once Cushing got hurt?
Ed Reed left too. It wasn't just Lewis.
Reed was very much on the downhill. Ray Lewis was very much the captain of that team. He was the leader of the team. He left and they went downhill. I mean, Ed Reed he just wanted one more contract, and the Texans handed it to him on the silver platter. And he didn't do a goddamn thing for them or the Jets when he went over there. Anyway, I mean, my point is that you lose Cushing when Cushing got hurt. The Texans, their defense looked bad after that too. Is when you're losing a captain, a leader of the defense, whether it's free agency or not, he's not replaceable. It's not somebody who can just jump into that role, which I don't see anybody. I don't see a leader of the defense out there anymore. I don't.
No, I agree. I don't see a leader out there. And maybe that's the problem with the roster that they have. They don't have anybody capable of being a leader. But they did swap out a lot of players. A lot of players were hurt last year. They were out. So, maybe it's just a mismatch, no chemistry. That may be the situation. But really, no matter what, though, they're facing 1-4, or they're 1-3. They got a very tough schedule ahead of them, and I think they'll be lucky to finish 8-8. That's what I said, lucky to finish 8-8. So I think that did it for them. It's going to be tough to come back from that. So with that out of the way, well, back to the Cowboys. Though they're 3-1 right now, and people in Dallas are like, "Woo, the Cowboys!" But they got Houston and Seattle coming up. So, to all the Dallas fans out there, don't throw your parade just yet.
I mean, it's the same old thing with Dallas. They're going to end up being 8-8, just like they always finish. I mean, it's 3-1. It's not that big of a deal right now. It's not.
No. All right, so
we can't sell them as world beaters. There's no doubt about that.
So, Eric, did you have a observation from Week 4?
An observation?
Or a point you wanted to talk about for Week 4?
I mean, not really. Other than maybe Baltimore just fucking destroying Carolina. I mean, I keep going back to these teams that I thought were going to be great, And I mean, Baltimore putting 38 on them. And with, not that I thought Ray Rice was any good. I mean, Ray Rice sucked last year, so losing him was not that big a deal. But hell, it's looking like losing him was the best thing that happened to him. For fuck's sake.
I wouldn't go that far. It's more of a system. Justin Forsett knows Kubiak's system. He was familiar with it from his playing time in Houston. It's something that, I mean, he didn't have to pick up on. Forsett, and he's nothing special. Forsett, his talent isn't going to awe people. I mean, he's like 29 years old. He's familiar with the system, and he's running it the way it's supposed to be run.
Yep. He's looking good doing it, though. But
yeah, I mean,
what's not looking good is Cam Newton. I'd like to talk about the other side of it, because I don't think the Ravens' defense is that good, and Cam Newton, granted, I know he does not have the receivers, though. I've got to keep remembering that.
They're kicking themselves in the ass for letting Steve Smith go. We're basically cutting Steve Smith.
And oh my God, yeah.
I mean, there was blood and guts all over the place, and he destroyed them. But I mean, it wasn't just him. It was bad plays all around. Like there was one that he caught a tipped pass. The ball was tipped up in the air, and then he called it going down the sideline. I mean, it's just the freak plays like that ended up in one of his touchdowns. But the lack of playmakers. I mean, and we also, come on. I mean, half of their running backs are hurt.
More than half.
Jonathan Stewart, Mike Tolbert.
D'Angelo Williams played though, and he's quote unquote their top running back.
He got a sprained ankle.
He got hurt.
Yeah, so now they're searching the free agent wire, trying to sign a temporary back to come in because they're out. They're done. Yeah, they are out of running back. And Cam is hurt.
Yeah, and Cam's hurt. So they have no choice but to throw the ball. And who are you going to throw it to? Benjamin? I mean, he can only do so much. It's one man out there. I mean, who's their number 2? I think it was Kotchery.
Greg Olsen. Greg Olsen's their number 2. If we're being honest.
Fair enough. But I mean, their opposite wide receiver is, I think, Kotchery. I mean, he's not going to turn heads. Or Jason Avant, something like that.
Yeah, their offense is struggling. Their defense was touted as being one of the strongest in the NFC, and they're definitely not showing it.
Well, look, here's one thing I want to say about the defense. I think this whole Greg Hardy ordeal is bearing a big burden on them right now. I think so, because they are way too talented to be playing as lousy as they are. I mean, something's going on there.
All right, well, let's move on. Like, you asked for my things. My other one is Minnesota somehow beating Atlanta.
I don't know about somehow, but yeah.
Well, I mean, somehow in the sense of, what the fuck, Atlanta? You're supposed to be the tops of this division.
No, they're not.
Well, they're supposed to be competing.
No, they're not.
The Saints sure as fuck aren't.
Their offense is there. Their defense is not.
I told you they were going to finish third. They were going to finish third in this division, and I'm sticking by that pick. The rest of them are fucking wrong, but Atlanta's going to finish third.
Well, I think, if you're saying 8-8, I think New Orleans is going to finish third, and Atlanta's going to finish second.
They ain't finishing first. I know that fucking much.
Well, who's going to take
it? Their defense is fucking terrible. I don't know.
New Orleans going to take it at 8-8?
No, hell no.
It might be the AFC West from years back and shit.
I tell you who has the goodest chances of any right now. That's old Mike Glennon and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Oh, good grief!
I said it. I mean, it's crazy of the turnaround in the NFL. It honestly and truly is. They get their asses handed to them by Atlanta. I mean, smoked on national TV. Everybody calling them, the laughing stock. And then they come around and beat Pittsburgh. Not saying, I mean, Pittsburgh isn't a great team by any means, but come on. I mean, Tampa Bay, nobody gave them a shot at that game, and they came out and beat Pittsburgh. I think that deserves some type of credit here on the show.
It was a great catch in the end zone by Vincent Jackson that won that game. That was a fantastic catch.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, Mike Glennon is definitely looking legit. Now, whether it was, sometimes that happens with the young guy that gets in for the first time and the defense doesn't really know what to do against him.
It's not Glennon's first rodeo. He did it last year, too.
Exactly right. But, let's be real here. This was a fucked up week. The Giants, Eli Manning looked like the best quarterback in the league. And
the
last
Chiefs,
night, what happened on Monday Night Football? Yeah, exactly,
Chiefs.
with the Chiefs.
So I was going to call Tampa Bay over Pittsburgh the upset of the year so far, but I think I got to give that to Kansas City.
No, I'd probably say the upset of the year right now is still Cleveland over New Orleans. Nobody in hell gave Cleveland a shot. Look, the Kansas City, they set the crowd noise level there. Arrowhead was rocking, and they made all the plays. There's not much else to be said. They run plays at its finest. There's nothing flashy. There wasn't anything great going on. It was smash mouth football. Took it right to New England, and God bless.
They beat the fuck out of Tom Brady.
Yeah,
good grief.
Yeah, they didn't really bang him up. Look, you can see how frustrated Tom Brady is if you watch that game. My goodness, man! I've never seen him this frustrated. And
no, he was frustrated like that last year, man.
Not like this. If you saw his body language there on the sideline, there's nothing like it is right now. This was
when Brandon
it hit a
Brandon
new level.
LaFell is your best wide receiver. When Brandon LaFell is your best wide receiver, and you're that good of a quarterback, fuck's sake. Look, at least
Julian
Drew Brees
Edelman is much better than Brandon LaFell.
Look,
you wouldn't think that from the stat line.
You can put anybody in the slot receiver spot in that offense, and they're going to put up numbers. Julian Edelman was nothing before Wes Welker.
I'm just looking at performance.
While Wes Welker was there.
Well, my point was, at least, look, Aaron Rodgers has Randall Cobb, Jordy Nelson. Peyton has got Demaryius Thomas and a slew of whoever else, the great quarterbacks tend to have at least a great target. Drew Brees has Jimmy Graham. Who the fuck has Tom Brady had since Randy Moss?
I've been saying it for years, dude. And
he had Gronk.
Gronkowski, who has played 7 games in 3 years or some shit?
He's played 20 snaps this whole season in 4 games.
Well, when he's there, he has the target. He has the guy to go to.
He's not healthy.
He's Drew Brees'... No, yeah, I'm not saying that he is, but when he is in there, he is what Jimmy Graham is to Drew Brees.
Jimmy Graham hadn't missed a snap in fucking 4 years. So, can we not compare those two? Seriously.
Did Gronk play Sunday? Yes, he did.
He started. He played 5 snaps. I swear to you, dude. Before yesterday, he played in a total of 11 snaps in 3 games. And then Monday night came, and I'm dead serious. He played maybe 10 snaps.
Is it because he's not healthy? Is that why?
I just said that. He's not healthy yet, man. He's not healthy at all. He missed all of training camp, all of OTAs. He's not there. He's not even where close to 100%. They're bringing him in slowly. And the best way to do that is game time. And they're put.
I mostly brought that up because what Eric said, who has he had since Randy Moss? And he has had Gronkowski since Randy Moss.
Yeah, and he put up numbers when Gronk is healthy. There's no denying
honestly, Aaron Hernandez was his most solid target until,
he decided to start killing people.
Look, it really is a shame that somebody that's one of the best quarterbacks of our generation, one of the best quarterbacks of all time, that his last few years is wasted away because New England fails to get him any help. And what do?
Yep.
They traded off their best offensive lineman, Logan Mankins.
Logan Mankins.
Yeah, they traded him to Tampa Bay for what? Some fucking draft picks? They keep getting younger and younger and younger. And when you have Tom Brady, who's almost 40, and you still have the 5th youngest team in the NFL, you're putting him and a bunch of nobodies out there and say, hey, go win us some games. It's not fair at all. And, I mean, it's just a crying shame that this last few years are, of course, you might make it to the playoffs because it's not exactly a great division. But, I mean, in New England, it's championship or bust. It doesn't matter if you get to the championship game. It's a disappointment at that point.
Yep.
Well, we'll see if they can bounce back from that beatdown that they got. 41-17. That's pretty crazy. Perry, did you
almost as bad as Green Bay, Chicago?
Oh, what the fuck!
I had to throw that one last jab in there.
Oh yeah.
Perry, what were your observations? If you had more.
The Tampa Bay was one that I wanted to put out there, but of course, my boys, Texans, basically cost Manuel his job. He's not. Kyle Orton's now starting in his place. I mean, the pressure. They finally were able to basically, I wouldn't say stop, but at least control the running game just a little bit. I mean, Spiller and Jackson, probably one of the best combos that they've gone against. They pretty much held them in check. Manuel's not going to beat you in there. And old Mr. J.J. Watt took that ball to the house of like 80-something yard return, or 70, however long it was. I mean, it was a tough.
He also hit
game.
Emmanuel 9 times.
I mean, it's crazy.
It was.
I'm looking up stats right now. He had 9 QB hits.
the guy's a monster, and I mean, I don't think there's a better defensive player, let alone a better defensive lineman in the NFL than J.J. Watt right now.
They're in.
Yeah, I agree. And, he's about as nasty as they come.
And watching him work, I mean, dude, I'm going to pick him. He's going to be one of my waiver wire pickups. There's now 2 touchdowns for him on the year. That's better than my bench.
Can you start him in the flex?
Start him at tight end.
Start him in the flex.
Starting at tight end. You could do a lot worse.
You could, especially tight end, that's for sure. I got Donald. And we'll see. But, that honestly, that's pretty much it. It was kind of overall a pretty boring week. When you have Seattle, Denver, all these exciting teams to watch on buys. Really wasn't. I wasn't blown away this past week. I just wasn't. There wasn't anything exciting going on. I mean, I don't know. It was a very mediocre week.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta say the 49ers Eagles game was pretty fun to watch. That one came out. It definitely went against who I picked, but I mean, nobody really ran away with that one. It was offense versus defense the whole time.
Yeah, there wasn't much to watch there, in my opinion, besides a few of the special plays that Philly brought up. Because, I mean, San Francisco shut down Philly. I mean, they didn't do shit offensively. All their points came through special teams and defense. I mean, it's very, very hard to shut down Chip Kelly's offense like that. And, I mean, they put it to him. For that, I mean, it was for me watching it outside of a couple of special plays, it was very much a one-sided affair.
Yeah, but comparatively, we were talking about last week. What did I bitch about? The fact that Kaepernick had more carries than Carlos Hyde and Frank Gore combined. This week, Frank Gore gets 24 carries, Carlos Hyde gets 10, and Kaepernick got 7. So, sounds to me like they got back to their fucking formula. Give Frank Gore the ball 20 times, you win. Quite simply. Like, I think their winning percentage with him getting the ball 20 times is something like, 19-1 or some shit. I don't know. I mean, I'm throwing out a random stat, but
it's
no, I mean, like, it's seriously,
yeah.
I mean, it's fucking solid as hell.
Yeah. Yeah,
I can,
sure.
I get, and like I said before, I can understand them trying to conserve them just a little bit because they have gotten to how many straight NFC Championship games?
Like 3 or something.
So I mean, the figure basically in their mindset, hey, okay, we're going to get there. We don't want to burn this guy out because I mean he is getting pretty damn old. We don't need to, ride the train that much right now, and well. I guess they realize if they don't ride that train right now, they're not going to win games to get to the NFC Championship game.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, I don't know what else really there was to talk about for Week 4. Besides Teddy Bridgewater, he looked pretty damn good in his debut.
Look, he looked okay. But again, it was against Atlanta.
But his first NFL game against the NFL defense, the boy he performed.
Well, you know what? Matt
took
Asiata looked great too, but I mean, he's just not.
Well, if we're being real here, Perry, he actually outperformed Matt Ryan by QBR and quarterback rating.
So who cares?
I'm just saying,
that's
rookie
because
in
like
his first game.
The
desperation
good job,
son.
Picks that Matt Ryan threw. That's all that was.
He threw for more yards, better completion average, QBR 84 or 85.6. Matt Ryan's was 59.9. So whatever. Stats don't matter though.
I'm saying QBR and quarterback rating is shit. It's not.
I'm just saying
it's not an accurate depiction of what happened.
Okay, fine.
If you'd actually watch games on Sunday, then maybe we can talk. But you throwing out QBR ratings at me, I really don't want to hear it.
All right, fine. Then Teddy Bridgewater going 19 for 30. He only threw 30 passes, threw for more yards than Matt Ryan at 41 passes. Those are simple numbers.
I'm just saying that the kid went out. He started his game, and what happened? He got the W. He did his job. Good job.
And
that's all I was saying. Yeah.
Fair enough.
He did a good job. All right, so Perry, you want to bring in our picks for Week 5? I have a quick update on the standings of our picks. So Perry, last week you went 3-2. So your record is now at 13-7. So you are 3 games in first. And Eric, you went 3-2 as well. You brought yours up to even so you're 10-10, and I went 2-3, and I'm also at 10-10. So Eric, you and I are at 500. So we got 3 games to catch up for Perry.
I ain't worried about that shit.
You should be.
All right, so now that we see where our record is standing, Perry, why don't you introduce your picks, your 5 games for this week?
All right, guys, the champ is here. Cue the John Cena music.
I wish I couldn't see you.
Dun, 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 dun. All right. All right, first game. We just talked about them. Matt Ryan and the Falcons going to Eli and the Giants. Eric, who you got?
The Giants. Sorry, I'm not giving any reasons. I'm hammered. That's what I'm doing.
Chris?
I'm going to stand by my assertion of the Falcons is that their defense is not as good as advertised, and the Giants are pulling it together right now, and they are at home, so I'm giving it to Eli.
Fair enough. The Falcons haven't advertised anything on defense. I don't think anybody called them a good defense to start with.
No, they did.
But I don't think the Giants' offense is nearly as good as we saw this past week. And Matt Ryan's going to light them up. I'm picking I'm picking the Dirty Birds.
If he can do better than Teddy Bridgewater, they'll win.
We'll see what Bridgewater does against a good defense. We'll see. All right. Next, I get Baltimore, Indy. Chris.
Man, this was tough. All these picks this week are pretty damn tough. But I had to give the edge to the hottest quarterback in the NFL right now, Andrew Luck. I'm picking him over Baltimore.
I agree. I'm rolling with Indy as well. I think a few of Baltimore's touchdowns last week were pretty fluke plays. I don't think Flacco is going to repeat his performance. Indy is decent against the run. They're going to make Flacco beat him in the air, and I don't think they can do it. I'm going with Indy. Eric?
I'm going with the Ravens. I don't think you can beat them right now. No pun intended.
I think you had every pun intended when you said that.
There wouldn't have been that shit-eating grin on your face if you hadn't.
Ravens, baby.
All right. Texans, Cowboys. I'll start this one off.
I bet you will.
Even though the Cowboys looked pretty damn good this past week. Look, you put heat on Romo, and he's going to make the bad decisions. He's not I don't think he's fully healed from his back, and you could tell that from the couple of rushes that he did against New Orleans. Texans are going to put the heat on him. He's going to make mistakes like Romo always does. Texans win.
Poop.
Eric.
Poop. The Texans aren't winning this one. The Cowboys, man, like as long as the Marco Murray is running as good as he is, it's going to make Romo look as good as he is. So,
what was that running back's name again?
DeMarco Murray. I'm drunk. I can't help it.
I heard Mamarco Murray. That's what I heard. Yeah, Mamarco.
It's my
He's going to get hurt on his first carry.
Well, my pick is based on the fact that he's probably, if he doesn't get hurt on his first carry, the Texans right now are ranked 26th against the run. So they're going to have to honor the run and put an extra man on the line to stop DeMarco Murray. So if they're able to get their running game established, it's going to be tough to put a lot of pressure on Romo. I mean, JJ's going to do his damnedest, and I'm sure he's going to get him a couple of times. But if Romo plays like he did last week, I think the Cowboys' offense is going to outlast Houston's offense. So I think in a tight game at home, Dallas is going to pull it out. So I'm picking the Cowboys. It hurts me to do, but
you went with the Cowgirls or the Cow Turds.
You
whatever you want to call them.
You went with the winners. He went with the winners. What happened?
No, I'm looking at offense versus offense and defense versus defense. I give Houston the edge in the defense, but Dallas's offense by leaps and bounds is better than Houston. When Tony Romo is not being Tony Romo, when he's being that guy, well, see, the first few weeks of the season, I mean, they showed a few things when I actually watched the game this past week. They showed what he looked like in his mechanics in the first couple of games trying to get over the back surgery. He wasn't able to rotate his hips. He wasn't able to plant his back foot. So he was making some really bad mistakes, mostly because he didn't have his feet under him. It was hard for him to maneuver around. He wasn't able to sell play action just because he couldn't move. but he was planting, he was pivoting, he was moving around really good, and he looked it. So Houston's going to have their hands full.
What was his excuse last year? I mean, it's Romo turnover. I mean, it's what he does.
So Rome over.
All right. Well, I guess I'll just go ahead of you guys even more with that pick. It's all good. Next game, Cincy, New England. While Eric's snorting coke over there.
Despite the struggles, good grief. Despite the struggles that New England had, damn it, put it down. I'm calling it DEA on you, goddammit. All right, so despite the issues that New England clearly showed on last night, they fucking man. All right. Anyway, so forgetting what happened Sunday night, if you put Cincy versus New England, I think Cincinnati's defense is too much for New England to handle right now, and their running game is stout as all get out. So Cincy's going to run away with this one, I think. So that's my pick. The Bengals.
Well, it's at New England. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. Since he's coming off of a bye, they're having some time to get ready for him. So, I'm going with Cincy too because I think their defense will be a little bit. Their defense is too much for New England's struggling offense right now. I think that's the difference. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. It could go either way in the fourth quarter, but I'm picking Cincy.
Patriots! 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 You gotta go with the Patriots, man. Belichick doesn't like losing. He sure as fuck doesn't like losing against pussies. He will win. He'll be fine. And I may need to sneeze again.
50 million times.
Belichick!
The lungs are going to come out your nose.
Dude, that just fucking snotted all over my smokestack. It's not good.
All right. Last game, I think it's one of the most compelling matchups. Called,
Your mom's a compelling matchup.
Not really. Anyway. Arizona, Denver. Eric, who you got?
We got the desert and we got the cold. Which one am I going to go for? It sounds like your mom. They're all dry and cold-blooded. Anyway.
Thank God she doesn't listen to this show.
Yeah.
I'm going with Denver, of course. Was there a choice?
Yeah. It's
Never
like
go against Peyton.
It's like Cincy, New England. I mean, there's a choice.
Never go against Peyton.
Yeah, this one caused me quite a bit trying to figure out, but I think the new number one defense in the NFL against pass yards and rushing yards, Arizona Cardinals, are going to put enough pressure on Peyton to win this game.
They're going to David Bowie the shit out of that, man.
So I'm calling for the upset. I'm calling for the Cardinals. to win.
Both teams are coming off a bye. Arizona, of course, is stout. In the secondary, they are prone to the run. They're too beat up on defense. Peyton Manning coming off a bye. It's at Denver. I honestly don't think this game is even close. I'm going with Denver.
Dang.
You're gonna have to call some upsets to dethrone the champ over here.
It's early, bitch. It's only 3 games. That's 1 week.
All right.
We're
Dun, 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 dun.
yeah, we're different in 3 games this week, so it could be the difference.
It could be. But, I mean, I'm the only one over 500. If that's saying anything.
It's really not.
I guess not. All right, well, it looks like as good a time as any to go into my Perry's Point for this week. Short and sweet. Eric's probably going to hate it, but if he can stay awake over there. You awake-y?
Yeah, I think he's
I guess so. All right, what I want to talk about today is baseball. The playoffs fast approaching. It's a time for history to be written and legends to be born. This year, it's also a time for new teams to make their mark. There's no Yankees, no Red Sox, no Braves, yet this year's postseason has the potential to be great. But real baseball aside, I want to concentrate more on the fantasy side. Fantasy football leads popularity by a large margin because, well, it's football and the NFL is a powerhouse. But fantasy baseball is honestly my favorite fantasy sport, and it doesn't garner any attention that it deserves. In fantasy football, you set your lineup and basically cross your fingers. There's a few roster moves here and there, and the only real debate you have is who to play in the flex. It's a roll of the dice, and hopefully luck will come out on your side. There's actually management involved with baseball. There's no bye weeks. Everyone normally plays the same amount of games every week. It is something that takes a little bit of time every day. It requires involvement instead of a once a week set your lineup and done. There's numerous scoring categories, not just points scored. In our league, it was 17 categories last year, and we dropped it down to 15 this year. It makes it where every position on your team has to serve a purpose. You can't have all home run hitters because most of them don't hit for average or steal bases. You can't have all speedsters because most of them don't hit home runs and they lead off, which leads to very little RBIs. There's strategy involved throughout the year that starts with the draft. Every single year there are numerous players being called up and new stars are being born. Even if your draft isn't the most successful, you can truly find studs throughout the year. You can't do that in football. You have to cross your fingers and hope that you're high enough on the waiver wire to snag someone who's starting because someone else is hurt. There's definitely more to it than I can explain during this segment, but it truly is a unique fantasy approach and one that will test and hone your management skills. Fantasy baseball wound down to a close this past week. I was involved in 2 epic battles to close out the year, the first of which was against our very own Eric Tolbert. It was a week-long war that came down to a last at-bat from Mark Trumbo. I needed an RBI to take the lead, and he led off the inning with the solo home run. The fact that I had a stolen base for a stat correction thanks to Carlos Santana sealed the deal. The following week, I once again was in a brutal war with another person you guys will recognize, Todd Hart, who's a big fan of the show and been a part of a few of them. It was a back-and-forth struggle that culminated on Sunday. Both teams performed well, yes, we're just better for that week. These last few weeks proved to me why I love baseball, real and fantasy, and honestly got my attention back on baseball, a game that I know and love. These last few weeks also were proof to me why fantasy baseball trumps football. Every single day I was debating who to play based off of pitching matchups and what scoring categories I needed. I was debating who to drop in order to stream pitchers throughout the week. Streaming pitchers is dropping a player to pick up a pitcher who's pitching on the following day. The day that he is pitching, you can drop him to pick up another pitcher pitching the following day. It truly is one of the most exciting aspects of fantasy baseball, and honestly, our league just doesn't do it enough. If I'm struggling for wins, strikeouts, or quality starts, he's always there for me to try my luck out. It doesn't always pan out. I've been burned quite a few times, honestly, and in doing so, quite frankly, if the pitcher was that great anyway, well, he wouldn't be on a free agent. You're just hoping he is good on that given day. Like I mentioned previously, it's because of fantasy that I got back involved with baseball as much as I ever have. It's the reason I purchased MLB Extra Innings last year. Well, my wife wasn't exactly happy about it, but I spent many a night switching between 10 to 15 games to see what my fantasy players were doing. I developed a new passion, and that is fantasy baseball. The point I want to make is that just because something is more popular and getting all the attention and TV shows dedicated to it, it doesn't mean it's the better option. If you haven't played before, give it a shot. It truly will change your perspective of baseball, and if you remain involved, will long-term wise, I believe, make you a better fantasy manager as a whole. Yes, the season is long and can turn into a grind, but nothing that is worthwhile is short. It takes time and dedication. In today's age, both of which are commodities that have gone out the window for the most part. Time nobody seems to have anymore. Dedication is something that is learned, not given. You have to have both to be successful, even if time is nothing more than 2 minutes a day. Fantasy baseball opened up my eyes to a number of things, but most importantly, it showed me a fantasy world outside of football that is more enjoyable and simply refreshed my love for the game. And that is all.
All right. So what was that quote that you said? Something that is worthwhile is not short. Is that what it was?
That is true.
That would be a great fortune to put in a fortune cookie. So then if you read it, you could put in bed at the end of it.
Look, I've actually got to throw out from this year of fantasy baseball my story, and that is the first week of the playoffs when Perry and Todd, who he mentioned, were both on their buys because they were the top two. That week it came down to the wire, literally to the wire, and the Yankees were playing the late night game, and the only thing that could beat me was a solo home run from Brian McCann from the Yankees. And he hit it. He hit that solo home run, and it put the other guy ahead. And I was defeated. I hated it. Hated every second of it. And I started looking closer and realized that same guy I was playing had the Yankees reliever. And lo and behold, if that reliever came in the ninth inning to get the save, if he managed to lose it, I would win. And you know what happened? The motherfucker came in and lost it. It was the most epic thing I'd ever seen in my life. And I've never been more fired up about anything in my life. Well, I hadn't had a kid yet, so let's be real. But
that was great play announcing, by the way. Just wanted to cut that in.
I had Perry giving me textual messages
with
the whole
pitch.
time. I had my buddy Todd actually giving me textual messages the whole time. I was screaming and hollering like a fucking 7-year-old girl that learns how to hula hoop for the first time. It was fucking amazing. I woke my wife up, screamed and hollered her name, took a picture of her outside of how fired up she was about it, and it became a meme that said, "My husband has fantasies about me, but the only time they're fantasies is when he's in the fantasy baseball playoffs." So, yeah, it's pretty solid, man.
Yeah, there's just nothing that can beat that, and sure, not every week's like that, but you can't have moments like that in football. I mean, you really can't. They come and go so quickly, and it's only if, one certain person, has the ball at that time and throws it to your said person. I mean, I won one game like that. It was Jason Witten on Monday Night Football. I was down by like 15. I was like, "There's no chance," and went into it was going into garbage time, and he was racked up a couple yards here and there. And I was like, "Wait a second, I'm only down by like 7 now." And then he hit him for like a 20-yard touchdown down the middle with like 2 seconds left on the clock. It was the first year we played fantasy football. And but I mean, that's the closest thing I ever got to any moment like that. But I mean, there's really nothing like it. And the best way I can put it is if you just hadn't played before, give it a shot. It got me back into the sport, and maybe that's what it's going to take is putting fantasy baseball out there, get as much attention as fantasy football is getting, and turn this puppy around.
I still love fantasy football, but what I will say is that fuck fantasy basketball. Nobody wants to play that. Don't waste your time.
I told you that when you were telling me about the whole triple threat thing. It's like, dude, I ain't doing basketball. I can't do it. I played 1 year, and my team name was I Came in Your Face. Chris Kaman.
Chris Kaman. Chris Kaman.
I had Chris Kaman. I Came in Your Face. And it was terrible. I hated it. God,
that was the one league that I won that I come in first place in.
I think everybody else quit playing. It was terrible.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that proves it doesn't take talent to win it.
No.
No, they stopped playing, but I mean, it's kind of like the fantasy baseball thing, if I'm thinking about it correctly, because they had, had points, had field goal percentage, had three-pointer percentage. So each one of those is a point. And
yeah, it was pretty close. The difference is the baseball you had, offense and pitching. It's completely separate players, and also. Basketball, it was very much uneven because sometimes you have teams that only played 2 games that week, and you had other teams that played 4 games that week.
Yeah.
And the numbers were thrown off so much, and it was very. It just wasn't any fun at all. It's very unbalanced and very difficult to play fantasy basketball. It's just. I couldn't wrap my head around it because there's no way to kind of get it fair. Because if I look at it, I'm like, okay, between all of my guys, I have, 12 games played this week. The other team has 20 games played this week. There's no way I'm going to win in anything besides percentage. I'm crossing my fingers.
Yeah. I still like looking at that trophy in Yahoo there. It's still there. It's old and dusty, but damn it, it's still there. It counted.
Yeah, we got to jerk off to something.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So on to this week's Chris's quizzes, and Perry has the lead, 6-0 right now.
God damn, man! I'm winning in everything except fantasy football. Most points scored, one of the worst records. Anyway.
Well,
I'm drunk.
Thank you. All right, so this week's category is top 5, because there is 5. 5 current NFL coaches with the most playoff victories. Not percentage. Top 5 NFL coaches with the most playoff victories.
All right, cool.
All right, so Eric, first guess. No, they're top 5. Sorry, they're top 5. So there's 5 guys, and we were going 5 rounds, just in case you guys have trouble getting it.
Why does he ever since I argued, he's being
he's
making kind of a passive aggressive dick about it.
He's making the rules clear.
I want to make sure everybody knows what we're doing.
Don Shula. Hey, hold on.
That was your guess?
I've got a question. Yeah, I've got a question real quick.
Okay.
Are we counting Super Bowl era or before?
All right. The category is current NFL coaches.
Oh. so Don Shula is not a guess.
Current NFL coaches with the most playoff wins.
Oh.
You snagged me on that one last week.
Yeah.
Saying an answer.
Bill Belichick.
Motherfucker.
What'd you say?
Bill Belichick?
Belichick. All right. Stat board. Belichick is number 1 on the list. Can you tell me? Well, no. We're not going to do that.
No, we can do it. Do it. I'm ready. I'm ready.
You sure? All right.
Yeah.
All right,
Ready.
we'll do it then. All right, can you tell me the team or teams that he has won? He has 19 total wins. Tell me what team and how many in each.
Oh, god damn. I thought you were just going to say, like, total and shit. God damn it, Chris.
Extra point if I get it right.
As a head coach or just a coach?
Head coach.
Well, fuck.
See, that's why I wasn't going to do it.
Oh, shit. The
do
Patriots. The Patriots, 19, and the Browns, 1.
That's
I
not.
don't know, man. That's wrong.
It's, it,
But-
It's 19.
It's
It's
Patriots-
19
Patriots
total.
17, Cleveland 2.
That is incorrect, Perry.
What?
New England 18, Cleveland 1.
That's what I said.
Yep.
Oh, you said 19. You said 19.
I may have said 19. I was talking about total. God damn it!
You said New England 19, Cleveland 1.
All right, Chris, don't do this.
Yeah,
Just-
see
let's
that's
just
what I'm
stop now.
saying. Yeah. But yeah, I looked it up on ESPN, and Belichick has 1 playoff victory in Cleveland and 18 in New England. All right, Perry, your guess.
Andy Reid.
Andy Reid, the big red blood clot on the sidelines.
Period Reed.
Stat board. Andy Reid is number 3 on the list with 10 wins. All in Philly.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Eric. Second round.
Whoa! Like we gotta have some like patience here, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Shit. No, fuck it. I'll go with Tom Coughlin. He's old enough. Maybe that's an answer.
Tom Coughlin. Tom Coughlin is number 2, actually, with 12 victories.
Victories. Those things. We are talking about victories, right?
Yes. So, do you know where he got
Playoffs?
his? Do you know where he got his victories?
Well, I would say half of them are the Giants and the other half are somewhere else.
Jacksonville?
Yeah.
Yeah, he had like 2 from Jacksonville. Maybe 3.
He had 4 in Jacksonville and 8 in New York. Close enough. All right, 2 guesses left.
Jim Harbaugh.
Jim Harbaugh. Stat board. Jim Harbaugh's not on this list. All right, Eric. 2 answers remain.
Alright. Oh. Brr. I'll go with Lovie Smith.
Lovie Smith. Stat
Wow.
board. Lovie Smith not here. So this starts the 3rd round. Perry.
Sean Payton.
Sean Payton.
Sizzly.
Sean Payton's not here. Round number 4. Perry, you need to get the next 2. If Eric gets one of them, he gets the point.
Of. I'm rolling through my teams. I'm going to my mind palace. Fuck it. Mike Tomlin.
Damn it.
Mike Tomlin.
Asshole.
Stat board.
Oh!
Oh!
Okay.
Painful. Hurting my heart.
Yeah, I thought for sure that was it.
Sorry, I sold it a little bit too much. Perry, you need these 2.
Oh. the other Harbaugh, John Harbaugh.
John Harbaugh. Stat board. John Harbaugh is number 4 on the list with 9 victories. Tied up 2-2. Eric has the edge with the number 1 guess. Last round, fellas. Last round.
I'll say Pete Carroll.
Pete Carroll. Riding Pete Carroll. Stat board, what do you say? No Pete Carroll.
Oh, I didn't even hear the buzzer.
I didn't hear it either. I was like,
He sucked the life out of my heart.
Sorry. I swear I hit the button. I saw the little thing go up on Audacity. So I know it happened. All right, Perry.
No, it was just and the stat board says, fuck you.
we have the top 4, right? So it's the 5th one.
Yes.
Left?
Yep.
The only one that's going around in my head. Damn. Mike McCarthy, but I don't know if he's been there. I'm going to say Rex Ryan.
Sexy Rexy, huh?
The other sexy.
The other sexy Rexy.
Yeah.
The other white Rexy. Shit, my app closed.
It wasn't working anyway.
The other sexy Rexy. So either Perry wins this, or Eric, you get your first point. Stat board. Whose heart are we breaking today?
No!
Yes!
Some bitch.
Oh, man. So the ever elusive number 5. That coach is named John Fox. 8 wins, 5 at Carolina, 3 in Denver.
Yeah, but he was an assistant in Denver. Oh, no, he is the head coach of Denver.
Yes, he is.
Holy shit.
Damn.
Douchebaggery.
See, that's why I only went 5, because the next 3 were ties with the number of victories. So it went down to 6, I believe it was.
Who was those last 3? Probably Tomlin,
Fuck.
Ryan, and
Sean Payton.
Peyton.
Yeah, I could get it up real quick. That's what he said.
That is not what she said, though.
Yeah. If I can remember where I went. I actually went to it at work, so I just gotta find it again. Fuck, I can't find it. I'll let you know when I get to it again. So Eric, you can go ahead and bring in our top 5 for the week, man.
All right. So the top 5 for this week is the top 5 sports video games of all time. Now, I know me personally, I view this as almost a global topic. You can go years if you want to, but I almost viewed it as like top 5 sport franchises. So,
Fair enough.
that being said, Chris, are you ready, or do we need to go to Perry? Because you look like you're still looking.
No, I just got it. The next 3 on the list that were tied at 6 were Sean Payton, Mike McCarthy, and Pete Carroll.
It's who? What was the first one you said?
Sean Payton.
Sean Payton, Mike McCarthy, and Pete Carroll.
Huh.
So we would have pretty much tied on that shit because I said Carroll, you said McCarthy.
Probably so. And then Jeff
Said
Fisher. Jeff Fisher is right underneath that with 5. Jim Harbaugh 5. Mike Tomlin 5. Rex Ryan has 4. And then Ken Wisenhunt has 4.
Arizona Wisenhunt. Yeah.
Did go to the Super Bowl once.
All right.
Thank you, Kurt Warner.
All right. So my number 5, sports video games. I'm actually going the WWE SmackDown series of games.
Mother of God.
And I'm not just saying it because it's wrestling, but this was really the first series of games where you were able to create your own wrestler and only play in the matches that this guy was booked in, and you had storylines to play out, and you get XP and you can get better moves, unlock new things as you go along. Replay value was so high with this. What we used to do is make a wrestler for all of our friends, and then we just set them up in different matches and just let the computer play and see what kind of fucked up stuff would happen.
Well, what's great is you can make all these people and throw them on the roster, and it has a chance of them becoming part of the storyline along with you. Like
right.
I did that before with forgot who it was, but anyway, we became like tag team champions. I never controlled the guy at all. We happened
WWE RPG.
Pretty much,
yeah,
dude. And
it
it was never
was.
Back then. These were the ones that, like nowadays, it's only like a year. You only go through a season, and it's a strict storyline based to go through WrestleMania. Back then, you could play for years, years and years and years, and I mean, constantly coming up with shit. And I remember playing it for so long, and I'm in like my third or fourth year, and still new shit keeps on popping up, and that's what's missing from the franchise now.
Yep.
That's
and
cool.
It was epic, man. It really was. It was great.
So that's why it was my number 5, mostly because of the sheer amount of hours I spent on it. But I really seriously think that these games influenced a lot of other sports games that were coming down the line a little bit after this. Games like MLB The Show introduced modes like, create a player and play him through the career, and it really helped people get involved in playing baseball games because like 162 game seasons, they're tough to play through. I mean, sometimes it's tough to play through just a 16 game Madden season, but with this, with SmackDown kind of laying down the smack essentially with these types of modes, I think it opened a lot of game developers' eyes on what you can do with letting the gamers create something that they want to play. So that's my number 5.
Cool. All right, Perry.
As for me, I don't care anything about ratings. I'm going off of sheer, play time spent. I don't care about graphics, anything like that. And my number 5 is something that I had a ton of fun playing with as kids, and that's NBA Jam. There's just something about having the guy jump up, 20 feet into the air and still have a chance to block him. And then he's on fire, you're shooting it from pretty much half court, and I mean, it's just even though it was kind of crazy seeing the characters do stuff like that, it was so much value, and it's just arcade style there, arcade style, the console game, and just pick it up and go, and spent many great hours playing that game.
Dude, I spent many quarters playing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Dude.
Small fortune.
I remember, going to skate parties back in the day. Like, go to a skating rink. Fuck skating, dude. I was over in the arcade section,
yeah.
and I was playing NBA Jam and Street Fighter 2. Like that's how I got down in my childhood. So.
Yeah, mine was NBA Jam,
Mortal Kombat.
The Ninja Turtles arcade game, and fuck, Perry, you just made me forget the she said Mortal Kombat. Oh, it's the X-Men.
Oh, dude, that was a great fucking game. Dude.
Oh,
if I had that at my house right now, oh my god.
Yeah.
Anyway, like shit, this shit could digress quickly, but
could.
All right, my number 5 is RBI Baseball. And I don't know if y'all played it, but I still love it because you had 2 different rules to play in that game. One was pitch everything down the middle and then whatever happens, or actually pitch for real. Yeah. And the only game I ever pitched a no-hitter on. Yeah. Only game. And dude, it was an epic no-hitter, man. Stewart, you're out there somewhere, Lance Seal, Todd Hart, y'all were sitting there watching that shit, and I pitched a no-hitter on Stewart. That was epic.
I remember playing this. I don't know if it was RBI baseball or if it was one very similar. I think RBI maybe came out just a little bit later. It was still the same basic mechanics where, I mean, you could throw the ball, pretty much hold it down and throw it really quick, or you could actually control it and letting it doing.
Exactly. If you hold the down button, it's a fastball, and up was the
slow ball.
Yeah, and I was sitting there with my dad, and he does this huge leg kick whenever he's getting ready to swing. Sitting there trying to time it just right, and then basically almost kicking you off the bed. Trying to swing the bat. He gets so pissed off at me. Basically, by the point I'm up 15-0, and I start throwing them cheese, right down the middle, begging him to hit it. But, yeah,
that was also the first game me and my dad played, and the last with each other because he was like, you're not allowed to use the screwball, which was the hold up, and it's like the unhittable pitch. And so every time he would foul off 2 balls after I threw down the middle, I may have thrown the screwball. So, just being honest here, people. All right, so number 4, Chris.
Number 4 is kind of a combination because these two games I seriously consider them to be the same game, just with a different boss at the end. And that's Mike Tyson's Punch-Out.
Awesome.
That game was so much fun. The different characters that you get to fight, they were as amusing as anything I've ever played, and each one had a different strategy you had to figure out how to beat, and you had to do it just right. A lot of precision, and it fit with the theme of the game because you were Little Joe, this little no-name guy, so you had to use your brains, to figure out how to beat these big hulking guys, except for what's his name, Glass Joe.
Yeah.
That dude was...
The biggest thing I remember about that game was very racist. It really was.
Yeah, the trainer.
Oh,
the trainer in the corner. Yeah,
well, I mean, the
black face and the big
and then
pink
you
lips.
had the genie-looking guy with the weird hair that kept disappearing and bobbing and weaving in and out. The Turkish guy with the eyes rolling.
Yeah, that was Bald Bull.
Yeah, Bald Bull. That's that. But
oh man, I lost so many matches to that motherfucker until I finally was able to figure out how to win.
Mr. Dream was a fucker, man. I hated fighting that motherfucker. Oh.
Yeah, Mr. Dream was in Punch-Out, and then Mike Tyson basically was the Mr. Dream character in his game. Pretty much the same guy, but yeah, that was tough. But
Mr. Dream was
Macho Man was tougher.
Macho Man was pretty tough, yeah. He wasn't tougher than Mr. Dream, though.
That's tough. That's my number 4.
All right, Barry.
Number 4, so I played a lot on several different consoles. Tiger Woods. And, say what you want about golf as the sport of going out there and playing it, which, is a hell of a lot harder than what it seems like or what it looks like. But, I mean, on the video game, it's just something about driving the ball 400-something yards or building to that point, and then all the attribute points is, getting your golfer going and going out there and golly, man, like I said, I played on computer, I played on PlayStation, and it never seems to get old to me. And, I mean, I buy plenty of golf games throughout the years from Tiger Woods, and, I mean, everyone just keeps getting better and better, and I love it.
Man, I couldn't agree more. That's why it's my number 4 as well. Tiger Woods to me was, I'm picturing Cleveland, Mississippi, and playing with Vic Aguzzi, Bo Vestal, and a couple other cats, and it'd be 4 people sitting around, and man, that shit got legit, dude, because we were all great. And, I mean, it'd be 16th hole, and all of a sudden one person makes one mistake, and by that point, we're all negative 15 under and shit. Yeah. We've maxed our characters out, but that was half the fun. It was maxing your character. It was it was golf RPG. Yeah. It was a role playing game, and hell, that was half the fun. Seriously,
and getting all the new sponsors and the new equipment, and setting up your bag. I mean, it was great.
No, it was good shit, man. I think I eventually went to like one driver and then like a 5 wood or something, like, you know, like, I mean, it's like, you know, my bag was as crazy as you would ever see, you know. But all right, well, Chris, number 3, man.
Number 3 is probably a little low with some people's list, but I put Madden as number 3. Best-selling football franchise, video game in history. Still producing top-quality games to this day, making things fresh, and getting the internet involved in the new titles and stuff. So it's really progressed to almost the point of a simulation now. Really, I kind of get a kick out of the first time I saw on SportsCenter when they set the 2 Super Bowl teams up against each other in Madden and just let the computer play it out. And to see who won, and that was really cool.
And Madden was right like 4 years in a row, or some shit like.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So, but to me, because I'm thinking a lot further into the past as well, so that's why the current game on this list, Madden, is right there smack dab in the middle at number 3.
All right, cool. Bear, what you got, man?
I actually have the exact same thing. Madden franchise for my number 3. So going back, I mean, this one of the first real sports games that, you know, on PlayStation 2 is where I started, you know, really falling in love with it. I think it was like Madden 08 was the first one on PlayStation 2, something like that. But anyway, that's the one that really sucked me in, and I played it every year after that. And outside, you know, not this past Madden, I hadn't had a chance to play yet. The 2 before that, I wasn't really a fan of. They seemed to be pretty much the same game. But anyway, they constantly kept getting better, and this one looks great. I plan on getting it as soon as I can. But anyway, it's something that we all have a history with playing. I mean, half of mine and Eric's friendship was based all around Madden. And, yeah, we played the hell out of it and had some epic battles, and it's something we can always you know, look back on. And it's something about building a, you know, franchise on there, or starting from scratch and building the team, or doing the fantasy draft ordeal. It takes hours to do, but it's well worth it. It's absolutely great.
Yeah, I think actually, I think the first Madden game on PlayStation 2 was Madden 02, because it was a launch game when PlayStation 2 was first launched, and I remember Kara was a baby when that happened. Hell, it might have been 01, but I'm pretty sure it was 02.
Yeah, you're probably right. I don't know. Either way, that's the one.
It was a long damn time ago.
Yeah.
I know that much.
02, 08 don't really make much difference. Right?
That's right. Yeah, actually, I remember the one where all 3 of us drafted teams out of my trailer a couple years back, and the reason I say this is because Madden's my number 3 as well. So as we continue to talk, I remember y'all getting pissed off because, like, me and Period played teams, and Ray Rice, by the way, is still my nemesis for that year. That was back when Ray Rice was actually good, and the Ravens were okay, but, man, fuck playing against Perry that year. But now, man, like in that trailer, like, I want to say I taught y'all some things about fantasy and like how to draft and shit like that, because I made a defense that Chris got so goddamn pissed off about he almost walked out of the trailer one night, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, because for some reason I was just drafting offense is what I was doing. I completely forgot about drafting defense. I'm like, oh shit, I have to do that now, and all the big guys were gone. So.
Well, he did he did the little tricks, like he'd make a defensive end an outside linebacker. He'd make a middle linebacker to an outside linebacker. He'd make a defensive back to whatever. Yeah. I mean, he kept moving pieces around so he got the best ratings, and something like, oh, this guy's fast as hell. Let me put him right here. Oh, look
Dude,
at that!
well-
His ratings go up 20 points. Like he make the all stars out of nobodies, and yeah. But look,
exactly
I mean,
right, man.
in all honesty, though, I mean, like I learned so much playing against you from shit that that you did for years that I never did. Because I mean, I played against Chris, and we'd always do like quick games. We never did any of the franchise shit. The only time I did any franchise wise is when I was doing it, by myself, building my own team. But you introduced a new aspect of it that was a hell of a lot more fun than playing just the original game.
Yeah, man, it's nothing like putting LeBron Landry, I think it was, at like a 98 speed at outside linebacker.
Yeah. That's what pissed me off. I mean, that's what
And all
got
of a
me.
sudden, you try to run the ball, and you're like, why is he in the backfield every play? Well,
Yeah.
because the game is flawed. It's a video
You
game.
introduced
The
me
only
to it,
way
so-
I could move the ball is put Reggie Bush as a wide receiver and just throw it up and hope to God he can get to it before.
And
And
look,
then
Reggie
quarterback
Bush
got
is a
hit.
perfect look. That's a great example. You could get Reggie Bush in like round 13. You put him wide receiver. He's an 85 overall running back. He turns into a 96 wide receiver. Like that's the kind of shit that. Anyway, this may be too deep for our audience. We'll have a Madden special, and I'll tell you how to draft later. But all right, Chris, number 2, man.
Number 2, I put actually Perry's number 5 was NBA Jam. Mostly
Hell yeah.
because the fucking hours and quarters that I spent on this fucking game, and really it's one of the first. No, I'll put that different. It's the second sports game that I really, really got seriously into, and yeah, playing it at arcades, and then gosh, when it came out on the Sega Genesis. Holy shit. I mean, everywhere I went, whoever had a Sega, that's what we were doing, playing NBA Jam. It's fantastic. Ridiculous game. But it was fun all the way around.
Oh, yeah. All right, Perry.
My number 2 is I think was your number 4, Chris. Punch Out. Because that's one of the the few games that, along with probably Contra and Zelda, would be ones that I play still to this day from regular Nintendo. And I remember working at Client Logic and pulling up the emulator and sitting there playing Punch Out while I'm talking to customers on the phone. I mean, golly, a ton of fun, and it brings back memories and something I very much enjoyed as a kid.
Oh, yeah, man. Yeah, speaking of Contra, I've got to give props to my buddy Lance Hill, who taught me how to play Contra for real. Fuck the 30-man code. He's like, you're playing 30-man code, then you're not playing Contra. And this motherfucker, who I went through the whole game with him with never continue, and I was proud of that, he would start with 3 men and end with 8.
Wow.
Never died.
It's pretty.
I can make it. I can make it through the whole game with 3 men, but god damn it, this motherfucker, he was the Zen Buddha of Contra.
That's hardcore,
Just
man.
give me the spread,
Wow.
and I'm good.
Yeah.
Dude, he'd get it. He was like, dude, just give me the spread, and like he'd get it early on, and he would never lose it ever.
That
ever.
shit's crazy.
All right, my number 2 is actually FIFA.
Double Dragon.
Look.
Piece of shit.
Look, FIFA is like I never gave credit to FIFA. I didn't. I hated the game. I hated soccer, etc. Bullshit sport, whatever. I'm American. But when Nate and Wright, 2 buddies of mine, got me to play it, I got so fucking deep into that shit. They were pissed. Like after about 2 months, it turned into like that Madden shit y'all are talking about. I'd created my own formations, and I mean, it was just fun, man. Like because it's constant action, man. That like there's no waiting, there's no nothing. Like the ball is always on the move, and scoring is highly difficult. And man, it was a fucking blast, man. FIFA fuck soccer, honestly, but FIFA is a great game to play, and I plan on playing it again one day. It's phenomenal. So that's my number 2. Chris, what you got, man?
All right, man. Number 1, all-time sports video game. 3 words for you: Super Tecmo Bowl. That is my number 1 game of all time. That's the first sports game that really got me. When I was about 11, 12 years old, I would go over to a buddy's house. Didn't really like him all that much, but he had Super Tecmo Bowl and I didn't. So that's what we did all night long, is put different matchups up with Super Tecmo Bowl and 90-yard bombs every fucking time. And the ball would go up over the screen. You couldn't see it anymore. But that camera's still panning down. It was just fantastic. Great game. Man, yeah, the first football game that I ever... No, second football game I ever played. The first one was on regular Nintendo. It was just
10-yard fight.
God-awful. Yeah, 10-yard fight.
10-yard fight, baby.
God. That game was so fucking pathetic.
It wasn't side scrolling, it was like forward scrolling, where you didn't have to run. It would run automatically, and it was that was the
that's the exact sound.
Oh man, but like juking out, like you play like the purple team, the pink team, like a black team. Anyway,
dude, the black team was a beast.
It was,
I don't know
man.
why.
That was the only one.
Irony.
Yeah, that I. It was the only one that I had a little difficulties with, but yeah, it was a pretty terrible game. But at the time, it was
at the time.
So
that's why I think Tecmo Bowl was so revolutionary, because I think it was the first game that had real player names in it.
It was.
So
it was.
You were like, "Holy crap! Look, it's
Bo Jackson.
It's Joe Montana. It's Bo Jackson. It's Jim Kelly. I mean, all these guys that you see on TV. Emmett, was it Emmett playing? Yeah, Emmett was playing. So all these guys you see on watching football, they're there in the game. It's fantastic. Number 1.
Cool. All right, Perry, what's your number 1?
I really wanted to put 10-yard fight on this list because get back, man. I had a lot of fun with that shit. But anyway, it's not something that didn't influence me as a kid at all. It's something that is a game that came out at a later time, but I probably had more hours invested in this series than any other series, and that's MLB The Show. Mm-hmm. It really did revolutionize baseball games and made it more of an arcade form than it was a very long simulation and trying to figure, batting and pitching both. It was, you make a player, and you don't start off in the bigs. I mean, you go through the minor leagues, you work your way up, you put up some numbers, you learn the system while you're down there. And some of the previous ones, you had goals like every single at bat. And it's like, top of the ninth, you're down by 1. It's, okay, your goal is to get on base. And you get extra attribute points if you do that. Or, runner on third, 2 outs, bottom of the ninth, tied game. All right, win the game for us, Chief. You always have goals. It's a baseball RPG, pretty much. And God, I'm telling you, I mean, I have so many hours invested, like all these different positions, starting pitchers and going through, and it's just, as much as I love baseball and actually making it more fast-paced where you don't have to go through a 3-hour game, I can play a game in 5 minutes and move on to the next one. It was definitely a different approach, and I absolutely loved it. And anyway, my number 1.
Now, look, I definitely enjoyed that game. I can't put it in my top 5, but I have appreciation for that. Chris, I have a quick question to ask you.
Yeah.
The Tecmo you played, it was on Super Nintendo, right?
I don't remember, man. I think it was.
It had to be.
I think it was because I know I
if
didn't
it had
have
Emmitt Smith on it, then it was. All right. The reason I'm being very, very clear about this is because you said it right. Like you said, Super Tecmo Bowl. But the greatest video game of all time sports-wise, is Tecmo Super Bowl. There's a huge difference because this is on Nintendo. There was a Tecmo Bowl, and then they came out with Tecmo Super Bowl. It went from 4 plays you could pick on offense to 8, and it revolutionized football. It was fucking phenomenal. It was to a point to where when you're playing with buddies, San Francisco's off limits.
Yeah.
Because they were just that goddamn good at that time. No, I'm sorry. You can't have Jerry Rice, John Taylor, Joe Montana, and
Ricky Waters.
Their defense.
Yeah.
Sorry. Not allowed. Not allowed. It was phenomenal for one reason and one reason only. I love these games, and I love how sports games have gotten better progressively. But Tecmo was a game where you throw a power sweep, you come around the side, and I lock up with you. I pick the middle linebacker as my defensive player, and I come around and I lock up with you, and whoever pushes A faster wins. There's no like bullshit break tackle, like number or whatever. It's whoever pushes A faster wins. And if I lose, I don't get to pick anybody else. My guy just got thrown like 5 yards away in like this weird bouncy motion, and they get to just run wild against my computer AI, which is moronic, by the way. No matter how good they are. You get the worst defense to the best, they all do the same shit, and if you run diagonally when you're running down the field, you get a touchdown. Mm-hmm. But it was great because, like, mono e mono, player versus player, like, nothing pissed you off worse than locking up with a motherfucker that you knew could hit A faster than you could.
Yeah. You're right about that, man.
I mean, that's my top sports game just because it all came down to literally pressing one button, and whoever could press it faster could win the game. So that's how I wanted to end it. That's how I feel it's fitting. So back to you, Chris.
Yeah. That's the thing. I have a hard time remembering the controller because I know there was 2 versions that we played because he had one and then he got the new one, and once he got the new one, that was it. I got confused with what they were, but I just called it Tecmo Bowl then. That's what I called it. That's what everybody called it. It was just Tecmo Bowl. But yeah, I'm never gonna forget that. Playing those games, that was so much fun.
I couldn't hate on you about that because it didn't matter because I love Tecmo Bowl. Yeah.
All right, guys. So that will do it for this week, and I just want to throw a reminder out there to everybody. Thanks again to Brian for giving us a topic that he'd like us to talk about this week. We want more of our listeners to do that, so hit us up however way you can through our email, leftfieldsportslounge@gmail.com, or Twitter at LFSportsLounge. Any way that you get to hear this, it's great. iTunes is easiest. We're also on Stitcher. We're on YouTube. We're on SoundCloud. We're on TuneIn Radio app, and we're on Blueberry. And I'm sure there's 1 or 2 others that I'm forgetting right now, but we are all over the internet, so it's easy to find us. You have no excuses. Help us out, spread the word to your buddies, spread the word to your friends, and we'd love to hear from you. So once again, I'm Chris Lewis along with Perry Lewis and Eric Tolbert, and we will see. Yeah, there he goes. It's been over with for a while now, so we will see you next week.